music-loving friends. Today, we're going to make a little picture to help you think about your note reading. Now, I don't know how many videos you have done of mine already, but I like to fold my paper to make everything very organized, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. When the paper's like this, we call this landscape orientation. You don't have to remember that, but when you see it like this and not like this, it's important that you put your paper the same way. Let's start by folding it in half this way. So we go this way, we make sure that those corners line up really nicely. And then once they line up, I'm pinching it to hold it tight so it doesn't go all over the place. And then I start my fold like so. And then once my fold is kind of how I want it, then I grab the nearest utensil and I smash it. I happen to have my scissors handy. You can use your fingernail to smash that fold. I don't want to ruin my manicure, so I'm just using the handle of my scissors to make a nice tight crease there. Okay, now we want to fold it in thirds from here. And the best way to fold a paper in thirds is to start your fold, but don't smash it yet. And ask yourself, does this look about the same width as this? From here to here should look about the same as from here to here, and it doesn't need to be perfect. So just see if it looks about the same. And when you're happy with this spacing, then you do your fold. And of course, you smash it. All right. So now it looks like this. And we want to fold this over again like so, but I actually find it easier if I go back like this. So I'm going back like this. I'm making sure my corners don't get all wild and unruly. And then once I'm confident that everything's lined up, make sure on the other side that everything's lined up. And then I pinch it and I hold it down to the table and I smash that fold. There it is. And then I crease it with my scissors. And you can see mine is not perfect, but that doesn't matter. We're just making a drawing and using this to help us be a little bit more orderly about that. So now I'm running my finger along the back of those folds so that the paper will lie flat again. I'm opening it all the way up. And now what I have is this piece of paper that has 6 columns on it that are going to help me keep my drawing very neat and tidy. We need to do one more fold. So my paper is landscape again, and I'm going to fold top to bottom like so. And I'm lining up my corners again very neatly. And then I'm pressing that fold and making a good hard crease. So what do I have here? I have a piece of paper with a bunch of lines on it to help me draw a really nice picture. So we're going to be drawing a note reading house today. Now, if you've done any amount of note reading, you know that we draw our notes on something called a staff, and that has 5 lines in it. And we're going to draw those in first so that we have plenty of room for our notes that we put in eventually, and then we'll build a house around it. So you have this middle line right here, and you're going to draw one line that goes all the way across that. So starting over here, it doesn't need to be perfect. If you really like your lines to be perfect, you need a ruler for that. But as you can see, I'm just following that line. I'm not going quite to the edge of the page because I'm trying not to get ink on my background here. All right, now I said the staff has 5 lines. And so to keep our spacing relatively even, we're going to use a finger space. So I stick my finger here and make a little mark. I see where that mark is, and then I'm going to draw a line that kind of goes along that. I'm making it as straight as I can, but I'm not using a ruler. Again, a craft or a drawing doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful, does it? I'm going to make another finger space because I need 5 lines. I've only got a few so far here. So now I'm going to draw a line along there. So I have 3 lines now, but as you know, we need 5, and we're going to put the other 2 on top. So find a finger space, make a little mark, draw your line. 1 more line to go, finger space, little mark, and your line. So now you have this beautiful staff. I bet yours looks so good. It's time to build our house. What does a house need? Obviously it needs some walls, doesn't it? So you have these other fold lines, And I am most interested in this one right here, right now. So that you don't need to fold yours, I'm just showing you where mine is in the video here. But this little fold line over here is where we're gonna put the first wall of our house. So I'm starting on the bottom line of the staff, and I'm gonna draw that wall so that it goes a little bit above the staff, like that. And then on the other end of the staff, I'm going to draw another wall. It doesn't matter if you have some staff lines hanging over the end, that's okay. So that wall needs to go just as high as the other one. And then it's time to put a roof on your house. So that roof needs to start in the middle. And again, you don't need to fold yours, I'm just showing you where the fold line is. Right in the middle, you have a line. And from that middle line, you're going to start your roof up high and you're going to come down low. So it goes over the wall of your house. And then we're going to make one on the other side that looks the same. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Now, before we can add anything else to our house, I don't know any houses that have no landscaping. They all have something, trees or something like, bushes or something like that. Well, our house is going to have a very special looking kind of tree, and that is going to be the treble clef that you have seen on your music. I'm going to draw it 2 times. The first time I want you just to watch how I do it, and then the second time you'll do it with me. I'm going to use green since I compared the treble clef to a tree. A treble clef starts by circling the second line from the bottom of the staff. So we start by making this little spiral. It goes around that line, it comes down and touches the bottom line, and then it comes up here, and you see I have this little spiral, and I paused there because here it takes another little turn, and that treble clef goes up to the right and then makes a little hook backwards. I once had a music teacher who used to say that this was like a little swan. So once you've gotten to that point, you start from where you just left off and you draw a line straight through and make a little hook at the bottom. Now, as promised, we're going to do it together now. So I'm going to use a darker color. You can use whatever color you like for your landscaping here. All right, so here we go. Do it with me. Start your spiral, find your second line from the bottom, start your spiral so it goes around that, goes back around, touches the bottom line, and comes back up. It doesn't need to be perfect. You have a lifetime to perfect your treble clef. All right, now we're going in a new direction, up and to the right, and then with a little hook over. All right, and now it's time to go from there straight down through the rest of your work and then make a little hook at the bottom. I bet your treble clef looks really good too. All right, so now we have a house, and our house has multiple stories to it. In fact, it has 2 main stories. It's got a basement and it's got an attic. Oh my goodness, we need to add some things to this. Now, remember your little lines that you made. And if I were to fold this, you can see where this line is, where this line is, where this line is, and so on. So we're going to use those to help us organize our drawing. Now, I'm going to switch to using some colors because I think it's best to make each string of the violin a different color. Well, how many strings do you have? 4. You have G, D, A, and E. So we're going to put G in this column, D in this column, A in this column, and E in this column. So we're going to start with the G string over here. Now your G sounds so low that it's like the basement of the house. And it's so low that we even need to add lines to the staff. So we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 tiny little lines. And then right underneath those first 2, we're going to add more lines, just like that. This is like a little staircase, and it is going down to Grandpa's workshop. The G string is all the way down here. You see how I put it underneath that little line that we made? That's your G. We're not going to label every note, but we're going to label that. All right. And then each of the notes on the G string goes up a little bit of that staircase that went down into the basement there. So let's draw a note that goes around this line with the line going right through it. Then let's draw one that goes right underneath that line right there. And then let's draw one that goes right around this line with the line going through it. And what did I call this? Grandpa's Workshop. Let's write that down. Grandpa, G-R-A-N-D-P-A, apostrophe S. That means it's his workshop. And workshop is W-O-R-K-S-H-O-P. The notes on the G are so low that they are in the basement. All right, now we get to the D string. Well, the D string sounds a little bit higher, so they're going to look a little bit higher. They're going to be on the first main level of the house. So the D itself, it doesn't go on that bottom line, but it touches it like so. All right, and I'm going to label that D. That's your D string. We're not going to label every note, just the main open strings, okay? So now all of the notes on the D string live kind of in the first floor of the house because they sound a little bit on the low side. They're not so low that they need to be in the basement, but they're on the first floor of the house. So that's your D, and then we need to add a couple more. We need one that goes around the bottom line. We need one that goes in the space between those two lines, and then we need one that goes around the second line. Okay, so those are your D string notes, first floor of the house. What is on the first floor of the house? Dad's office. D, A, D, apostrophe S, because it's his office. Dad's office. O, F, F, I, C, E. Now it's time for the A string. So the A string sounds a little bit higher, so it's going to look a little bit higher. It's the second floor of the house. So the A string, now we're in this little column right here. It lives in this space, not the first space, but the second one. And that one is your A. Let's put in the other notes and I'll tell you what room is there. So the A is here. The next note goes around this next line. So it looks like the line is going through it. The next one goes in the space above that. And then the next one goes around the next line. We always take up a space on the line, a space on the line, and so on. Well, what is on the second floor of the house? It's Auntie's sewing room. So we're going to spell that together. Auntie, A-U-N-T-I-E, apostrophe S. That apostrophe means it belongs to her. Auntie's sewing room. I love sewing. I want to go to the second floor of the house. All right. Now we get to the E string. The E string is so high, it's up on top of the staff for sure. So let's draw that in and I'll tell you, this is my personal favorite room of the house. All right, so the E string goes right in this top space between these two lines. Let's label that. Now you can see G string, D string, A string, E string. And then the notes that you would commonly play as a beginner happen right here. The next note goes around that line. The next note goes on top of it. And then the next one is so high that we have to add a line, just like we added low notes over here. We're adding high notes here. And then we're going to add one more. If you know how to play with your fourth finger, it's all the way up here. We extra line, and then that note sits on top of it. And then I told you I'd tell you what this is called. Here's why it's my favorite. This is Emily's hideout. It's all the way up in the attic. And since I'm Emily, I get to name it that. I suppose if your name starts with E, you could call it something else. But if not, it's Emily's apostrophe S, because it's mine. Hideout. H-I-D-E-O-U-T. Now there's something else to add to your drawing before you're totally done. I'm going back to my uncolorful pen for a moment. Our house needs a chimney, and I'll tell you why. Here's our little chimney. Draw it with me. Okay. And we're going to put some little smoke coming out of the chimney. Now, why on earth do we need that for a note reading diagram? I'll tell you. When you get very good as a violin player You play notes that are so high that we add more and more and more lines, and they keep going up and up and up above the staff. We don't add more lines to the staff. We just add all these notes that go above it, like smoke coming out of the chimney. So there you go. When you're trying to read your music as a beginner, you can help to organize your note reading a little bit by thinking about which floor of the house you're on. Are you down in Grandpa's workshop? Those have to be notes on the G string. Are you on the first floor in Dad's office? That's got to be on the D string. What if you're kind of here on the second floor of the house? That's Auntie's sewing room. That's your A string. And then, of course, my personal favorite, if you're really up high, even if it's the smoke coming out of the chimney, then you're in Emily's hideout on the E string. Happy practice.